Welcome to another episode of Small Time Songwriter. My name is Angel Corsi, and I'm, of course, your small time songwriter. You might notice a little bit of a change today. First of all, I'm on video because I wanted to get on YouTube, get some YouTube content, so I'm going to be posting on here occasionally with the podcast. You might also notice that I'm on Zoom. So, what I want to do this year is focus on interviews with my friends and talk about their small time songwriter experience. And also, I want to share their stories about how they got into the industry and why they got into the industry, why they choose this art form, and also how they balance it with their regular lives. Coming up next is Shawnee Kilgore. It's my first interview of the year, and I'm really excited. I've known her for a long time, and I love her story, and I want to know more about her story, and I want to know more about her related to the songwriter life. So, hope you enjoy, and yeah, that's it. Let's get to it. Okay. Hello, Shawnee Kilgore. Thanks for jumping on this. It's weird to say your first and last name when I know you as just Shawnee, but but
That's
it's good.
okay. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you
Hi.
for doing my little podcast. And
Thank you.
so if you don't know what this podcast is about, because I don't expect all my friends to listen to my shit, it's basically
Good.
about what I call like the small time songwriter life. And when I say that, I don't mean it as an insult. I actually see it as like a badge of honor, where it's like none of us are Taylor Swift, and we're all kind of making our way through the world, living this like compelled calling of writing songs and sharing stories with people and telling people about ourselves and telling people about themselves through our music, and having to balance that with just being a regular person, just like trying to figure out how to sustain this like artist life with the way the world works and functions, because not all of us can hit the famous button and really sell out arenas all the time. So a lot of times it's a bit of a journeyman kind of conversation, a bit of a every day you just take another step kind of thing. So thank you for doing the podcast, and I want to know more about your story. And when I say that, uh, lately I've been thinking about how we as artists have to balance stuff, and we have to balance this thing that we feel compelled to do and create, but also the pressure of not getting the reach that we're always looking for, or maybe the pressure of the there seems to be a lifestyle when we take on this like small time songwriter kind of thing, that is based upon like up times of abundance and times of scanted, like just times of what would you call it, just
Drought, feast or
drought
famine. I
drought
don't know.
yeah, drought. um so I guess what I was wondering when I think about your story, because I know you have a little bit of an obsession with Silverchair, which I'll never get, but but
You'll never get, Angel. That is not a good way to start that out.
but but I know you have that. I know kind of the basic story about how you got into it, but I guess I'm more curious about like why you got into it. Like what more about why you got started. So do you mind sharing that with my very
Yeah,
small but loving
of
audience?
course, of course. No, well, yeah. It was Silverchair, but it was. I probably wouldn't have cared what Daniel Johns was doing. It was just Daniel Johns, front man, purpose of my whole life, to marry this angel of a human being. And that's really what it was my young, obsessed, entrepreneurial, I guess, brain, trying to figure it out. It's like, well, he's never going to marry me if he never knows who I am. So I have to get famous so that he will know who I am. So
So
um,
when is this? What year? How old?
14. I was
14.
14 years old.
14.
I
Already,
can't even do the math of how long ago that
yeah,
was.
14 and very very motivated to marry.
Very motivated and also like very unhappy. I was very unhappy. Um, so, you find your one thing and you latch on. But
Yeah.
so, yeah, my mom had a guitar. She just happened to have a guitar. And my youngest older brother, Kalen, was also into music and he actually played. And so that was a big, check in that column as well of like, sure, why don't you go the folk singer route? It wasn't folk singer to start out. I was really into punk and like trying to play rock and roll, but
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
So, but
Did you have a
that,
punk
that's,
band?
I'm gonna say yes. We had some names and
Okay,
we
what are the
had
names?
instruments. What were our names? It changed all the time. The Dergs was
The
one of them,
That's good.
like
Uh,
drugs
yeah,
misspelled.
yeah, I like
Um,
that.
Hamish was one of them,
Okay,
um,
Hamish.
which I sewed onto a T-shirt and I made one for Dave Grohl when we went to see the Foo Fighters. So I was wearing my Hamish T-shirt. I gave Dave Grohl a shirt with Hamish on it. And it's like
So
7 years
you
old.
kind of started as a fan then. In other words, you're a fan of
Yeah.
energy,
So
right?
yeah. So we played together one time. My friend, the drummer and I played together one time for like 2 minutes, and it was so awesome.
Hmm.
My friend Katie Blue and I,
Yeah,
and that was like the only 2 minutes that we ever actually like played music together. So I'm still talking about my punk band.
yeah.
Yeah, anyone who knows me, I'm still talking about it. I'm still gonna make it happen.
That's cool. I could, I never thought about it, but yeah, I can hear your voice in a punk band for sure. I could
I,
totally hear that.
we'll see what happens. I definitely can't like scream or anything, so I'll have to go like the opposite,
Yeah,
light on the vocals and like really rocking on the tunes. But
but I can hear it in the tone of your voice. Like when I think about the punk band, I had a punk band too. That was my first band. My band was called the Dirt Clods.
I love that.
Yeah, which was basically my my horrible version of trying to steal from Bad Religion and stuff like that. I was pretty much obsessed with that kind of punk rock where it was something.
Definitely.
I think I always just felt really compelled because I was listening. I used to listen to it. Well, I still listen to it, but I listen to like a lot of hip hop and stuff. And I think all that stuff just kind of sticks with you. And something about Bad Religion just had a little more street in it,
Yeah.
and just had a little
They're
more
yeah.
awareness of the cultures. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
They
So
have yeah, they're like lyrically pleasing as well as just
yeah,
melodically rocking.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so why did you get started? You got started because you had a crush or because you were a sad 14-year-old?
Unhealthy obsession. Let's call it what it is. Yeah, but that was it. That's why I picked up a guitar, and it didn't take long to realize, okay, this is actually, I picked the right thing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Now, why
very.
do you think 14-year-old Shawnee Kilgore decided to put our hopes and dreams on the front man of Silverchair?
I mean, look at him.
Oh, you'd still give it a go, huh? You're still gonna take a shot.
I mean, we haven't met yet, but I'm not ruling it out. No, it was just, he was the most beautiful person I'd ever seen in my life.
That's so funny because I think about the reasons that I got into music, and when I talk to my very small audience shows or whatever, or when I talk to some of the community stuff that I do, and I talk about songwriting, what I always tell them is music has been the only thing like constant in my life that has only filled my cup instead of taken away
Mm,
from my cup.
mm,
And
mm,
I've always felt like that from the moment that um, my story is my dad, who plays a lot of blues music and stuff like that. I walked into the house one time and he was listening to Red House by Jimi Hendrix, or Jimi Hendrix's version of Red House.
mhm.
And I remember just like walking into the house and hearing this record play, and I was just like, "What the hell is that? That is amazing! I want that."
Yeah.
So then, I listened to the song with him, and I sat with him for a while, and I looked at the record, and I was like, "I want to be as cool as this dude. This guy looks awesome." You know what I mean? And but I remember just feeling that 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 essence or whatever, that kind of suddenly you just feel like you're fine or something. Like
Mm,
everything around you that's not fine feels more fine when you're in the music or making the
because you
music or
have that.
something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. For sure.
I guess I'm looking for, is there is there a deeper motivation why Shawnee Kilgore, the 14-year-old, decided to latch onto a gorgeous front man and and really try to feel and feel what the experience was when she started playing her first chords.
Yeah. Well, the other huge factor and influence that was going on at the time was I just found Ani DeFranco.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and so she was kind of the perfect I mean, she's pretty punk rock. Like
Yeah.
she definitely merged kind of both of those essences, and um, and it was great. It was great for me because I was just looking at her and what she was doing, and like you said, I want that. I want to do that. And she was writing all of her own songs, and so rather than learning guitar by learning Ani DeFranco songs, I basically learned how to play guitar and write songs at the same time because
Right.
that's what she was doing, and so that's what I wanted to do.
So artists like you, I think this is where we kind of hit similarities. Is we kind of started. It seems I don't know. I could be wrong here, but it seems like we both started with writing our own songs instead of like coming from like the cover spectrum. You know how there's this whole group of musicians that like I learned Stairway to Heaven, and then or I learned whatever, and I
Yeah,
learned
totally.
a bunch
Wonderwall,
of
or
but yeah, Wonderwall, or I learned a bunch of Nirvana songs or whatever.
come as you are. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I didn't do that when when I picked up my guitar and I was learning
Mhm.
how to play. The first thing I needed to do was write something um, that was mine.
Yeah,
I had no um, like feeling or urge to learn other people's stuff. I liked hearing it all the time. I liked sort of getting the osmosis of it, but
yeah,
I never really pursued how to play the solo in Black Dog or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, so were you kind of like that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think part of it too was just sort of assuming that anything that anyone else was doing was too hard for me to do. With Ani, for sure, I was like,
Yeah,
there's no way. I have no idea what is going on here.
yeah,
Um, and and I think I've always come at it from a place of just really extreme, pure curiosity.
mm,
Like the first time that I don't know. Also, there was a huge streak of stubbornness in that, well, if someone teaches me how to play this, then I cheated somehow.
mm,
Terrible, terrible advice.
yeah,
Nobody listened to that whatsoever, but that's just where I was at the time. And so I remember very clearly the first time. Well, I figured out how to. So I did learn drop D. Someone showed me drop D. I picked that up from somewhere,
sure.
and I figured out that I could just like really bastardize those chords and just like anyway, poor bar chords with just one finger.
Right.
But I figured out like my first like riff, and it was the most exciting thing ever. And my first thought was like, "Oh my God, why has nobody else found this yet?"
Yeah. That's
Right,
great.
very
I love
naive
that.
and very cute.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that about it. I love the aspect of discovery
Yeah.
so much.
Do you still follow that? Does it still feel like discovery?
It still feels like that. It's interesting though. I've been like just kind of looking at my guitar playing lately, and when I look at my old songs, kind of before I knew what I was doing,
Hmm.
they're much more interesting guitar wise. Like I was doing a lot different stuff
Yeah.
then, whereas now I'm very much just like, well, got three chords or four
Yeah.
chords. It's in 4/4 time or 3/4 time. Like
Yeah.
it's all just kind of like streamlined a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of good and bad, right? You get a little
Yeah,
bit too much structure, and then all of a sudden you feel like you kind of lost that little naive magic kind of
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
right. Kind of once you learn the rules.
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of like finding out Santa Claus isn't real a little bit.
I don't actually remember. I think about that sometimes. I don't actually remember when I found out that Santa wasn't real, but
Oh,
probably
okay.
good. Maybe it was so
What?
tragic that I
Yeah,
blacked it
sorry to
out.
break the
I don't
news
know.
if you haven't heard. um, well, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about was your voice. So I don't give me those eyebrows. Oh, but you're my voice, huh? I can see you. But
What voice? I don't have a voice.
I wanted to talk about your voice because lately I've been revisiting my voice because I just started playing again and I've been in practice mode and I've been finding some new things in my voice because I've been playing old songs. And one thing I noticed is that we change sort of where we come from with our voices. Like I have this song that I wrote called "Good People." It's about growing up and dealing with like gangsters and mobster type people, scary people, and being a person that didn't always have a reference point of what being a kind or good person is, because you're only around bad people. So that's kind of the general gist of the song. And when I wrote it, there was a lot of intense feelings about it. And there was a lot of, in the midst of like the middle of therapy kind of headspace, where the middle of therapy is just an explosion of chaos. It's like someone just pulled out all the stuff from your drawers and closets and threw it all over the ground, kind of thing. And you're just like, what do I do with all this?
Yeah, we're gonna
Um,
talk about it all. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just kind of it's kind of a weird thing, because now I'm in beautiful Colorado. Now there's mountains around me. Every morning is beautiful. There's snow, which I'm really not familiar with that much. I know ice from Chicago and New York stuff, but I don't know
Right, right,
snow.
right.
Um, so it's just such a different reference point. There's not the, in Chicago and New York and even in other places, it's like it's wet, it's gritty, it's slippery. Even in the summer, like the buildings sweat, like there's just like a grit to it all. And in Colorado, there's a rabbit outside my window. I named him Terrence, right? so
Oh, that's
so
a
this is what
great
I
name.
mean. It's like a Disney movie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So I notice when I'm singing this song, it just feels different and incorrect, wrong, right?
Mm,
So I started looking for my voice, this new voice of mine, and I'm kind of searching for it now. And I started listening to Springsteen on Broadway again,
mm,
and he goes over like finding your voice in this one section of it. And he basically says, when I looked for my voice, I took my father's voice, right?
mm,
So I was wondering, like, where does your voice come from? Like, what is that?
mm,
Where do you
mm.
find that? And have you felt it change over the experiences you've had?
I feel like it has probably been extremely consistent. Um, it was always, yeah, for me, it's always been the pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
That sounds so corny, but it really, really has been. And so I think uh, um, maybe this is just the default, or maybe I don't think I could like do much else with it, but um, I don't know. Yeah, it's
Have
yeah,
have have you
just
experienced have you experimented with a little more of a lilt, or a little less of a lilt, or
a
you know what I
little
mean?
bit. I did have a really fun experience recently. My one of my best friends, Mailman Bob, um, he is
Made up person,
70. No,
made up
he
person.
just turned 71. I forget. 72,
Mailman
whatever.
Bob is what
Numbers
you
don't
call
matter.
him?
Mailman Bob, yeah,
Okay,
he
sure.
he
So
was
you're
a
just making up
mailman.
a you're
He's
making up a name.
retired.
That's not a person.
That's his name.
Just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, anyway, he's fantastic singer songwriter,
Yeah.
um, harmonica player, singer, and his voice is so cool. It does this like I've never heard any other male voice do it, but it's like got this like crazy kind of waver to it. There's probably a technical name for that.
Like a
Vibrato,
vibrato, yeah.
vibrato. And and I got to sing some harmonies for him in the studio, and I
Mhm.
found my voice sort of matching what his
Oh,
voice
okay.
was doing, and like
Yeah.
and not anything like major, but it was different than anything that my voice had done before, and it was really fun to just kind of have that groundwork laid out and like experiment a little.
So, do you think that you've always been, you said earlier about like the pursuit of truth, right? Do you think you've always been very, what's the word, grounded in that's why maybe your voice hasn't had to shift so much, because you just kind of have always been like, coming from like the true blue part of you ever since you started writing your songs, because I definitely haven't. I've gone through all these kinds of phases. I was obsessed with Tom Waits for a while. I sang like Cookie Monster for like a year,
Oh, love
like
that. Yes.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Um, I guess so. I really think it just can't. Uh, I just don't think it can do much do much else. But um, I don't know. And also too, my voice is absolutely not um, the primary. Uh, instrument for me. It
Yeah.
will not, like the voice as in the words and the, like that voice, but not like technically.
Right.
I can sing, but I absolutely do not think of myself as a singer.
Yeah, me
Um,
neither. Yeah.
so I think that's the thing. It's like, well, I'm gonna, put all my focus into the, um, getting better at guitar, but mostly the song writing, like, is where I'm really always digging in.
I'm a little bit jealous of you because you seem so secure in like this is my voice, this is what it is, and this is how it's gonna be, and I'm gonna focus on all these other things, you know,
Yeah,
and I think I
it's
have
the one area of my life that I feel very confident about.
I feel like I shift a lot depending on where I'm at in my headspace, you know.
Right.
I always like I love listening to like that Philly soul stuff. I love listening to Sam Cooke and Otis Redding
Yeah.
and you know Marvin Gaye and all those people. And uh, uh, and I think that I wish, and I always try to find that little part of me, you know. And I think lately I've been feeling very close to that part of me, like loving that part of me a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about it all is just that my identity has been like so strange through my life that I think that's why I think about people's voices. I think about where it
Hmm.
comes from because I've had to sort of um, shift my identity depending on situations and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I feel like I've never had like a rock solid feeling. I had such a hard time um, dealing with all that George Floyd stuff because I felt like I just like walked away from knowing people like that.
Hmm.
And I'm so secure now and comfortable and I really just sort of I hate to use this word, but like assimilated, you know what I mean? And I felt kind of very lost during that period because I felt like very emotionally awakened.
Right.
um,
English is hard.
yeah, English is hard, but I just felt kind of like all of a sudden like oh I need to not forget those kinds of things
Hmm.
because they are even if your identity is my identity is tricky, it's still your identity kind of thing. And I think it comes
Hmm.
out in your music all the time. And I've always felt like you had such a strong center, like everything I've heard from you. And when I met you in person and talking to you and all that stuff, like I just feel like it always comes back and it's always like there, you know, it
Hmm.
feels solid, you know.
Hmm.
So so my next question would be, I got to feel about why you got started, why you do this, and your security with your voice. Hi, Kitty.
Yes, she's awake. She has food. Hi, baby. Hi, baby.
That is pretty subtle. It's just, she's very polite.
No, she's not.
and
She's
this
putting
is
on a good face for you.
and this is Nana Cat, right?
Nana, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next question is, do you ever see yourself hanging this stuff up? Do you ever see yourself um would you ever stop doing it or you think
I,
you're a lifer kind of person?
I feel like I'm probably a lifer kind of person. Yeah, yeah, I think about that sometimes when people talk about quitting music or not playing music or like I can see I can unfortunately absolutely see quitting trying to make it a career, um,
Yeah.
because it's yeah that the career aspect of music feels so disconnected from the music itself,
Yeah.
and it's I don't know. That's kind of a sad thing to me that for a lot of people it's inextricably intertwined. And if they're not making music or excuse me, making money or building a career, that it's either not worth doing or that they're just not going to play the music. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Like they're so tied together for
so
some
tied
reason.
together. Yeah. And so for me, um, I don't know. Like as far as any kind of like career goes, I'm kind of just sitting back right now and just sort of watching what is happening. But I'm still very much writing, like my inner sort of music relationship through the pandemic and whatnot has not really changed. Like I'm still doing my thing,
Yeah.
and I think it's just it's how I understand. It's how I relate to the world. It's how I understand the world. It's how I express um, everything.
Yeah.
And also, I write a lot of stuff that is not expressing anything. That is, a lot of kind of nonsense or fun,
Right.
and that's like really important to me too. It's like the feeling of getting a new song, it doesn't matter what it is. I just wrote a rap about an elevator that's been in my head for like a week and I
That's
love it
great.
and it's ridiculous.
Right.
But that brings me the same kind of it's like, filling the cup like you said.
Yeah.
That is an absolute never fails to fill the cup when I write a
Yeah.
new song. So I kind of like have to keep that coming in, but out there it's hard and it's
Yeah,
weird.
it's getting very weird out there for me too.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, and I try to think of music more as like my thing now that I share with people rather than their thing that I'm doing, you know.
Right.
And I think I've gotten better at understanding the line between that because there's just like, you know, it's just it's like you said, it's so tied together in such a strange way now that you're not even like a songwriter anymore, you're not even an artist anymore, you're a creator, you create stuff, and creator is great for creators, but for people like me that don't know how to paint or don't want to paint or don't want to do photography, which is all stuff you do, but but uh but I just mean like in the sense of like me, I just have a smaller pocket that I'm living in, like I don't want to really learn how to do Adobe Premiere and After Effects, and I don't really want to know how to use TikTok or have a TikTok or any of those kinds of things. I just
Yeah.
the songs. I think I what I'm learning is that for songwriters, it's important to get back to the root of it, which is like, why do you feel compelled to do it in the first place? And if you took away the finances, like you said, would you still do it? And um, really focusing on the audiences that you can get when you have them there and you're in seats and they're in front of you, kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm kind of focusing on. Would
Yeah, for
you
sure.
kind of like that too right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like it hurts you a little bit. Like you seem kind of lamenting of it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard not to, like, I don't always want the conversation to go to how difficult it is and how, hard it is for artists and how everybody's getting screwed. And it's very easy for the conversation to go there.
Sure.
And while that is very legit, um, I don't know. Part of me is just trying not to feed that fire, I guess.
Hmm.
And um, I had a thought and I lost it. David Lynch just popped into my head,
Okay.
which is not a quote that I could give as well as the other one. The other one was going to be really good. Not David Lynch. Shit. Werner Herzog.
Okay.
Um,
Two very
no,
optimistic people.
Craigie. No, I'm coming back to Craigie. I love
Okay.
Werner Herzog and David Lynch.
Yeah.
I was just at a John Craigie show last
Okay.
night, who I love. John Craigie has been working so hard for
Yeah.
so long.
Hmm.
Mad respect. I love him.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a guy who never loses the fire.
Never lose it. If he does, he doesn't let it stop him. But his song, "Pandemic" has stolen all my words. The bird song, "Dissect the Bird." Um, uh, God bless.
You got this. We're in this together now.
We are in this together. Okay, it's the verse about. Um, I don't know. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, he's got a great song. It's
Well, I'll
all
tell you.
about
I'll tell.
it's all about doing your job. If this is your job, he says, okay, I got it. Don't trust Don't trust a musician who's always complaining. Sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's raining. Sometimes it's the gorge. Sometimes it's a garage. Just get over yourself. Do your goddamn job.
Nice.
Oh, there we go.
That's
So
good. Yeah.
if this is your job, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and if it's not, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great
Yeah,
too.
that's a really good philosophy. My professor said the same, well, something similar. He said songwriters write songs, so they don't follow trends. They don't find what the best strategy is for music. Those are business people. If you're an
Unless
artist,
you
you're a
live in
songwriter.
Nashville and you crank out songs like that,
Yeah, yeah,
which
but those are
great.
business people slash songwriter types. You know,
Yes.
like there's we're all just like cats of different species, right? Or different kinds of coats. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think I'm just like the artist type. I think that's where I feel the most comfortable. Where it's like I don't really want to, I'll complain just like anybody will complain, and I can definitely get on that. So that's good advice to me to remember that I don't want to stay on that bus for too long. But
Yeah.
I do feel more compelled to just like if the internet went down, you're still gonna have to write the song. So just write
Yeah.
the song.
Yeah.
You know?
And I will touch on Werner Herzog. I think someone had written him a letter, like, saying how hard it is to make movies and all that. And Werner's like, nobody asked you to go out and make, like, nobody's like, this is your decision. If this is
Yeah,
something you want to do, you have to make it happen. It's not like the world doesn't owe you anything.
sure. Yeah,
If
yeah,
you want to make the shit, go and make it. And
yeah. I'm over here talking
it's
about the
better in
street.
Werner's voice.
So we'll get back to it. Basically, what we've learned so far is that you're kind of a hard ass. You're a little bit of a gangster when it comes to making art. You're a little bit of like, just shut up and do it, you baby.
Okay.
But despite being as gangster as you are, despite being that, I also know you as being a very emotional person. You're very
So
in
emotional.
yeah, you're very in touch with your emotions, but I think you're similar to me that like sometimes um you appreciate the I guess the superpower hypervigilance and being very emotional can be, but also it can you can also feel it kind of hurt a little bit. You take things pretty hard, right? I mean, I know I do, which is
Mhm.
why I'm really talking to you about it. So my question to you is more like how do you balance that kind of stuff, and do you find it to be more of a virtue
Not
than
sure I do. I don't
how
know.
does
uh,
how does it affect your art as a songwriter? Let's start with something easy. Yeah.
um, sure. I mean, I don't think it affects my art. I mean, if it does, it maybe is just in a a good way, as in, okay, I don't know if good, probably part good and part bad, but if I, okay, so what gets me a lot, and this might go for a lot of people, is I definitely am prone to, a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of resentment. I'm like, oh, I want that gig. I want what that person has. I want,
Oh, that's crazy. I never would have
um,
thought of that of you. That's so that's so funny.
how many times can I make this guttural snorting sound through my nose?
We'll
Um,
find out. I'll make a compilation.
yes, right. Please do. Um, so that's hard, but I also I try to let that fuel. Like, okay, then write better songs. Like, go home and that's also not super healthy. Like, go home, try harder, work harder.
Yeah.
But um, I am always inspired by what other people are doing. And sometimes it's like, that is a super shit song and it's number one on the radio. I can do better than that.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh my God, that's an incredible song. It's number one on the radio.
Sure.
Let's try. But, you never want to let that, um, don't ever write what that person is writing, but let that help bring out, I kind of think of it as in like, what is holding me back? What am I kind of hiding? What am I afraid of? Like there's, I know for a fact that as much as I share and as emotionally open and vulnerable and honest as I am, that there is definitely, yeah, there's a huge part of me that's afraid to be seen or afraid to be playing on a bigger stage, quote, so to speak,
Mhm.
because I see also how, famous people are widely hated by some people. And like, there's
Yeah,
always going to be people who don't like what you're doing, are very vocal about it.
sure.
Um, and, you know, yeah, part of me is probably still trying to protect myself
Yeah.
from that. But at the same time, it's like, I really want it. Like, I really do,
So
seeing,
want
yeah.
the big theater gigs and all that.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, you've played some pretty cool places.
I've played some cool places for sure, and it's so easy to lose track of what you have
Mm.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually been a goal of mine. I've been talking to, I think maybe Heather and Jana.
Hmm.
We've done some like vision board nights together, but that's always like future facing. And I had the idea of like, I want a shit that I've done board, I want that
Yeah.
reminder of like,
Yeah.
hey, don't just brush this off. This was really cool, and you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very easy to lose sight of how far you've come and the cool things you've done in relation to where you want to get to
Y-
instead.
Yeah. Two things I love about this, learning this about you, is the one thing is I love that there's a little bit of uh, an internal like uh there's some fencing going on in your mind where it's like I'm really proud and happy and love these people, they're so inspiring, but also god damn it, what the fuck, how come I don't
Oh yeah, oh
have
yeah, I'll admit it.
well I
I'm
love
not proud, but
I no 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 I love that, it makes me
it's the
love that.
reality of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me love you more because it's not something that you're such a cheerleader from every moment that I've known you. You've always been like, this person makes a cool song, and this is a cool song, and this person wrote this cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's cool for me, for someone like me, because I my default is I'm a lot like our friend Talmini. We start with cynicism and then we move our way forward through there. you know, that's like my default is don't trust anybody and then move through it one
Yeah.
step at a time,
Mm,
one Rubik's cube at a time, I should say.
mm.
And it's like it's fun and it's nice to know that even the people that I see as an extremely supportive and positive person has these little goblins in their mind that kind of
If
mess
there's
with them.
anyone who doesn't have those goblins in their mind, I think they're full of shit and they're lying to you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. I mean, and you're right. You can get kind of obsessed with what you don't have, and you forget what you've done. I think
Yeah.
it's different for everybody. Moving out here has really put a spotlight of what I've done
Yeah.
in my career
Yeah.
because right now I'm in a new town. I'm trying to basically sell myself to people. It's like kind of like you're trying to figure out where the gigs are. You're trying to figure out what the opportunities are. You're trying to figure out where you fit in the whole culture around here. And I'm realizing something that I just never realized when you're in it, which is when you come out of it, you've actually had this bit of a journey that's kind of cool, and you don't really reflect on it that much because you're always thinking ahead.
Hmm.
And I'm running into a lot of conversations where people are saying like, oh, I'm gonna start this business or I'm gonna start this venue or whatever, and it's like it's kind of fun now to be like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, yeah, no, I can help you organize this art walk. Sure, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like you realize you have all of these intrinsic skills that you've sort of picked up along the way that you never remember to take stock of that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Because they're just there. You don't think
Yeah,
about them until something pokes it or asks
yeah,
about it or it relates to something else.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's cool to have like a vision board of your past adventures, your wins or whatever.
Yeah. Still
Um,
haven't done it, but
well, you need to start doing it because why do you have a giant map of the United States back there instead of your
yep, there it is.
um, yeah, so I guess that kind of leads me to my next question is how do you how do you deal with um, that sort of bummer times where you're a little bit down? Like me, I have a really tough time. The hardest time for me to write is when I'm in like the middle of my depression. Like I'll get
Hmm.
depressed sometimes, and
Yeah,
it's
get
so
that.
hard. And I get kind of jealous because I talk to other songwriters and they say they do all their writing in their depression,
Hmm.
and I can barely get out of bed when I'm depressed, and I just kind of disconnect from the world. Like I'm
Right,
doing stuff. I'm like kind
right.
of getting the coffee and I'm typing or doing whatever I'm supposed to be doing, and
Yeah,
but I feel like I'm not there. Like my mind is always in the bed, kind of thing.
right. Also, may I just say that depression, there's a wide, that might mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Sure.
So those people who are saying they write in their depression are
Y-
not feeling like you feel. It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just want to say
That's
that.
nice.
Um, so like, how do I write? How do I keep
Yeah, like what do you do when
going?
you're when you, yeah, how do you keep going when you're feeling kind of, when you get hit by that when the goblin beats you up too much, you know what I mean?
Well, um, uh, I mean, how do I answer that? I was going to say, well, I don't force it, but I do force it a lot, which is also a thing that I encourage highly. But
Yeah.
um, I think so. How I've structured my life is my relationship to the muse is um, I'm very much at her service. I very much the way I go about it is I'm constantly listening. I'm
Mhm.
constantly like, I want her to know I'm listening, I'm here, I'm ready. What do you got? And the way that that shows up is I sing about feeding my cat. I sing about the shower. I rap about doing the dishes. Like any, I'm constantly trying to just keep that like the default setting to be a musical setting.
Right.
And I have so many voice memos. I record everything,
Yeah.
everything, 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 because I'm never going to go back and do anything with 99% of that stuff. But that's not the point. The point is for me to show the muse that I'm listening, that I respect her, that if she gives me something, I'm going to take it so that, you know, I don't want to tell her that her ideas are shitty because she'll be like, fuck you, I'm going to go give them to somebody else.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so interesting.
so so that's where I start, and it also I am willing to write anything, which is possibly the thing I am most proud of as a songwriter. Like I don't care if it's this is a Shawnee Kilgore song, this is going to be really good, people are going to like this. I don't care.
Hmm.
Um, if I have an idea about being the elevator regulator, I am going to
Elevator regulator.
flesh that sucker out and I'm going to see it to completion
Hmm.
just because that spark was there and I went with it. So
Right.
rather than like shutting that down or like that's a stupid idea, what am I ever going to do with that song? Like that's
Sure.
no good. I don't ever want to do that. And I think because of that, I've just primed myself to have sparks coming
Yeah.
all the time. And not that I can always finish those songs. I definitely have times where I get a spark and I grab it and then I like sabotagingly just walk away from it. Like, okay, cool, shut that away. I can't deal with that right now. But,
Sure.
um, and, being in songwriter groups
Yeah.
with a prompt, being accountable is, songwriters talk about that a lot, but it's super legit. If you
Yeah.
are accountable to somebody else in some degree, some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. Um,
Yeah. I can't count how many times I've come up with a song that led me to, a quote unquote record from songwriting groups, you know.
Yeah, right.
Like you just like, even if you don't end up using the prompt itself, just starting the song and finishing the song because you're being held accountable helps you
Yeah.
get closer to the song you actually want to write if you're in that space, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's so funny to hear you talk about the muse and all that. You give it a very ethereal, magical
It
kind of
is
thing.
magical. It like where do songs come from?
I
Like
mean,
we
I
can
can't.
claim that we write them, but like
I mean, I
they
can't.
come,
It's hard to
they
argue.
come.
It's hard to argue with someone that's written about 2,000 songs. So I don't know.
600, not 2000.
um,
But yeah, and I think that's a really important way to look at it. I think
my,
if there's not that kind of sense of wonder and awe,
mhm.
and also you got to take all the pressure off of yourself. It's
Yeah.
like if every time you sit down to write, you're pressuring yourself to write a good song, like you're not going to get anywhere.
Now I feel like we're not even on a podcast. I feel like you're just talking to me now and trying.
We're on a podcast.
Yeah.
You're
um,
recording this?
yeah, no, I mean, I have a different approach with that stuff. My thoughts are similar in the sense of like, if you decide to write a song, you do everything you can to be in service of the song.
Hmm.
But but as far as the magic and etherealness, I'm more of like, I don't know, maybe it's just my background or something, but I don't look at the muse as like something that I'm constantly having to tune into or have speak to me. I look at the muse as like somebody that owes me money. You know, I'm like, hey man, get over here. What are you doing? Get over here. What are you come back here? You know? So like every time I decide to write a song, it's kind of like I'm just chasing the guy that owes me money. I'm just like,
Right?
we're
Who's
gonna
the
write this.
gangsta now, Angel?
It's like we're gonna write this fucking money. I mean, we're gonna write this fucking song. It's
Yeah,
gonna get written. I don't
yeah,
care, and we're gonna finish it today, and that's it. But
yeah.
I love hearing different people's approach of it because I think yours is probably the kinder approach. It's probably the
Right.
reason why I can't pump out 600 songs.
But I also relate to what you just said. Like that is also a facet of it. Is
Yeah,
you know, yeah, the times that I do follow through, which I try. Yeah, it is very much. I was very much in service of the elevator song. Like I don't know, this is the dumbest thing I've ever written, but I stuck at it because it was there,
yeah,
and I was very much in service of that song. Of like,
yeah.
where are we going? What is
Right.
this song trying to say to me? And I think that's a good way of it too, is that maybe you're not writing the song so much as you're hearing the song. Like the song wants to be heard, and you figure out from listening to the song what the song is trying to say,
Yeah,
rather than like you putting words in its mouth. Does that make
yeah.
any sense?
No, it does. I think it's just that's why I find it so interesting because I think maybe there's a level of maybe there's a balance between the two, between the being connected to like the gift of it and also being connected to the work of it or something, you know,
For
like
sure.
not
Yeah.
just looking at it. Because one thing that you said that really spoke to me that it's hard for me to remember is you know the idea of like it just it comes from nowhere kind of, and it takes the pressure off of yourself if you just start recognizing that it just comes to you and you just have to like tune into it, you know. But I don't do that because I just function off of pressure. I just like function off of like I have to write some songs. I gotta get this done. I'm going to do it, you know, and that's just it. I'm gonna sit down and it's gonna be written, and it might not be good, but it's gonna get done, and then I'll move on to the next one, and you know. And I think maybe there's like a balance because you kind of speak about the muse as like kind of like a goddess or something, like floating around and sort of, you know. And I think that's cool, and I wish I had a little more of that in me, if I'm honest, because I look at the muse as like a magic trick where it's like it looks
Mm.
like a magic trick, but there's a trap door. We just have to find the trap door. It's around here somewhere.
Right,
There's a
right,
seam,
right.
you know.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's like that difference between like magic is real and like where's the seam. I could see the seam where the
Right,
mirror's
right,
at,
right,
you know.
right.
But I think maybe it's just a balance of it where you just have to
Yeah.
kind of embrace both. Or maybe it doesn't
Right.
matter. Maybe it's more like who cares what the how you got it. Maybe it's just about how you, if you get it, you know.
Yeah. And I think you can force, I think you can force the muse to show up. I think, it's definitely not just sitting around and waiting for it.
Yeah.
Um,
I read this Tom
yeah.
Waits book one time, and he said in an interview that he just listens to the muse, and sometimes he yells at it because it comes to him in traffic, and he goes,
Yes,
"Why did you
I've
do that
heard
to me?"
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like why did you do that to
He
me?
didn't have his phone to
Yeah,
just record it down. Yeah.
yeah. Tom Waits
Yeah.
doesn't
Love
have a
that.
phone; he's just got a rotary in his pocket. Just all right. So, before we wrap this up, thank you for doing this. But
Thank you.
before we wrap it up, I know it seems like this is probably, I guess this was a better question before this interview started, but now that I've gotten to know you and what you're saying today and how you're feeling today, this might be a silly question, but what are your plans for 2023?
um, hmm. You know, I have been, I mean, really, I'm just kind of focusing on feeling feeling good, like actually taking care of myself. I started going to therapy finally, and
Congratulations.
thank you. Um, and I turned 40 last year, so there's that too.
I don't like to
Um,
congratulate people's age
okay, that's fine.
because it's
I'll
weird. It's
congratulate
weird. It's
myself.
weird to congratulate people's age when someone
You're
goes like,
still here.
"Congratulations, you lived." It's
Yeah.
like, okay, what? All right. Plus, it gets weirder as you get older because when you're 70 and someone goes, "Congratulations," you're like, "Hey, man, I can still walk." Like,
Yeah, I'm good. Um, yeah, I think I think for me this just kind of feels like a year to maybe just get organized a little bit. Uh, kind of kind of face the fears a little bit more.
tell me
Um,
more about that.
well, I spoke about, kind of protecting myself from the from the world outside, which I do, not just musically, but um, yeah, just kind of getting in touch with what, just the intuitive, like heart,
Hmm.
voice of what do I want, and I feel like if I can really get in touch with that and not, clear out all the other voices of, or you're too old, or you're never going to get that, or any of that, and like just at least be clear on what I want,
And
then I can worry about
and
all
when
the other,
and when you say what
obstacles.
when you say what you want, you mean like as an artist or as a person, or what are you talking about?
I mean, as a person, let's just say, yeah, all of it, because I think I do need to be open to, I don't ever want to take music for granted, or like,
Sure.
you know, if it is something I do want to do for the rest of my life, I want to be open at any given time that
Hmm.
I might change my mind. So,
Mm, that's interesting.
you know, kind of having that renewed, um, if I don't want to change my mind, then I shouldn't be afraid of questioning if I want to do this anymore, right?
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Um,
I like that.
so,
I take a little
yeah,
bit from that
yeah.
as well. Our friend Elise Black told
So,
me one time when we were talking about love, because I like to talk about love a lot. Just because
mhm,
I like to hear um, what people have to say about love, because for me, I've always been obsessed with it because I've always either been looking for it or I didn't know what it looked like or I kind of wanted to pretend I knew what it was, you know. But
mhm,
one thing she said about her and her husband, which I hope still holds true because I'm about to repeat it. But one thing she said was, and she was giving me advice about it all, and she was saying, you know, one thing that me and my husband do um, is um, is I say I love you, but I say I love you every day because every day I choose to love you on that day. So I
yeah,
really took that and I've really put it into like my life's one of my life's you know, concrete things, one of my anchors in living life, like people that I love. When I say I love you, Shawnee, or when I say I love you, William, or I love you, Tom Meany, or whatever, it's coming from like a place of like, I really do practice and want to love you. And I put that in my artist life too, where every day I choose to be an artist, not just I'm doing it because I have to do it, or because it's what
Right.
I've decided I'm destined to do, or whatever. It's
Right.
the little candle can go out like any second, and it's more about when the candle goes off for me, am I going to turn it back on that day? Am I going to start it up again? And I think her advice of like, love whoever you're going to love every day, but make a conscious decision to love them every day. And every day is a new day to love somebody. So it's just constantly this like decision that you're making, you know? And it's really helped me through a lot of things, like not just artists, but just like living as a person, you know, learning how to be what I call peopling.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
you,
that.
you feel that way a little bit with your art too, or you're looking for that sort of like
Yeah,
decision every
for
day is a
sure.
decision?
Definitely. And whatever the saying is of how you do anything is how you do everything.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely. I think waking up and being intentional about, every aspect of your life, whether it be your work or your art, or if those two are intertwined, or the people in your life, um, uh, and and that in itself, just of waking up and choosing, you moved to a new place, like that's a big deal, and that's a decision that you made, and you are creating your everyday with those decisions, and like that is absolutely a form of creativity, and I think that's really healthy and really empowering to, um, creativity is not just, like you said, picking up a paintbrush or taking photographs or doing actual art in some way. Like you are always creating, like all the time. You make 70,000 decisions in a given day.
Yeah.
I think that's the actual number. And make them consciously. Be
Yeah.
intentional about all that, and you know every person is a creative person because we're making decisions and creating our world as
Oh,
we
I like
go.
that. Yeah, that's pretty beautiful, Shawnee. Well said.
Thank you. Thanks, Coffee.
My
Also, I just want to say I love Elise and John, and also I mentioned Heather, who was on your show, and I have her
Heather,
sweatshirt on.
yeah, love Heather. She's very, very
Okay,
sweet person.
as they
Probably
were. Go
Heather's like one of the it I almost don't know what to do with the amount of sweetness and kindness that Heather
Oh
puts
my
out.
gosh, I know.
It's
It's a
it's a little
thousand percent.
it's a little terrifying to like a pug like me. Like I'm just like, whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot. But thank you. That's a lot. But thank you. You know,
Oh my gosh,
I
yes.
don't know what to do with it. But
I know. She's
so
delightful.
I guess we'll just wrap up this interview with what I like to say with people. I guess two things. One thing is if you could give some tips to songwriters like me that are related to having a little trouble keeping the candle lit and having to turn it back on, and also balancing, being a person with being an artist, it's like they're the same, but sometimes it gets pretty blurry, don't you think? Like it can get pretty blurry as
Mm.
far as like how to
Oh
how to
yeah.
exist in both those worlds, because there's just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to get all political here, but like essentially it's like, we live in a very, very capitalist kind of society, so it's very easy to get caught up in um your your needs not being met because you're living the artist life,
Hmm.
or you're trying to, or so how do you balance all that? And also because you do a lot of cool stuff, like you do some painting stuff, and you got your photography, which I love, which is right behind you, right? Is
Yes,
that
I
right?
took this photo.
um
Yeah.
so how do you balance all that, and what advice would you give to people like me that have a little trouble balancing all that? Because it's
No
hard. Like
pressure.
right now in Colorado, I'm trying to make this. My goal for 2023 was to do more things like this, have more conversations
Hmm.
with my friends like this, and also
Yeah.
um and also be more community driven. I felt like, the gigs will come when they come, and there's such an ebb and flow kind of thing with gigs anyway, and the culture is always shifting anyway, and the popularity of the style of music I play is shifting all the time anyway. So focus on finding your tribe and getting your community together and being helpful to your community in service of your community, right? So that's
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
what I'm working on for 2023. But there's always a pressure to just like, um go work at a guitar shop or something, go repair some guitars and just call it a day, or
Yeah,
just have the 9 to 5, or just, and it's okay to have the 9 to 5, but it's just
yeah,
the balance part I have trouble with, so.
right. Yeah. Okay. I definitely have a quote day job. I don't call it my day job, but I feel like everything I do is like gig work,
Yeah.
you know. But I paint houses, and it's great. It pays money, and that's delightful. And I think having that, um, I think having that has helped me to not have to rely on music to pay my rent. Um, and and there's no shame in that. There is
Yeah,
absolutely no
absolutely.
shame, even though somewhere in the back of my mind there is still that stigma of like, oh well, if you were good enough, you wouldn't have to have a day job. But
Oh my God, that was my
um,
whole life.
it, yeah, so that's totally fine. I love the idea of taking some pressure um, off of off of the art to not have to support you financially, and hopefully it can just support you uh, uh, energetically and spiritually. um, I guess, yeah, man, if I had to rely on this for all of my money, I'm not sure that I would be able to do it, because
Sure.
that's way more, um, way more, I would say, like applying to things. But the amount of rejection that one feels is often staggering. And if I really was trying as hard as I would need to to be making all of my living from that, like I'm not sure I could do that.
Yeah.
So um, protect yourself a little bit from rejection, but also be willing to try.
Yeah.
Try not to take it personally.
Right.
Oh, I have a great thing.
Okay.
Speaking of, um, so there's that feeling of I get caught up thinking that there's like this universal like goodness of art. Like this is good music, this is not good music, and I forget that it is completely up to what people enjoy, right? Like, so if I'm on stage and people are talking over me and not paying attention, it's just like, oh my God, this is a dagger into my soul. This is so embarrassing. This is like so rude. Um, so what I remember, this has helped me a lot. When I go to a museum,
Uh-huh.
there's a bunch of different shit in the museum, and a lot of it I'm just like, this isn't my thing. Like I walk right past it. I don't have the appreciation for like, whatever 17th
Yeah.
century Spanish religious
Sure.
art.
Right.
Like that is probably could be the best 17th century Spanish religious art in the world,
Right.
but I'm not going to notice because I just don't know. It's not my thing.
Hmm.
So I try to remember that
Hmm.
even if, even if I'm playing my best song I've ever written on this stage, if these some people just aren't going to care, and that's fine, and that's not a reflection on how good what I'm putting out there is. So
Yeah.
try to remember the museum.
That's good. The museum. I like that. That's
Yeah.
really great. That's a good
Yeah.
tip. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on my little podcast. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you so much. I want that to be little with a big L though. I want that to be, it's little, but you're doing a really good thing, and you're doing a lot, and you have a huge heart, and what you do, however small it may feel, is radiating a big light. And I'm going to choke up. I love you so
Oh,
much.
I
You're
love
so
you too.
great.
I love you
Yeah.
too. and I'm gonna keep sending I love yous to you. So,
Okay, every day.
okay, every day. All right, you have a good day over there. Okay.
All right, you too,
I'm
Angel.
gonna want a
Thanks.
picture of Nana Cat today.
Okay,
Okay.
I can provide that. Yes.
All right. I'll see you later. Thank you so much. I'm
All
gonna
right.
be putting
Yep.
this
I'm
up
gonna
later
turn my
today.
refrigerator back on now.
Good idea. Bye bye.
Bye.